Welcome to episode 2, where we're going to show you exactly how to pose our 3D model of the Green Army Man and do the final steps of prep before we 3D print and then move on to sanding and painting.
You know what to do.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just going to set Origin's geometry here because the origin point's set there, so it's at head height. And I just want to bring this up close. Now, when we're looking at how Sarge is looking through, he's very up close to the binoculars. So there is probably going to be a point where we are merging the binoculars into his nose. It's not a bad thing. Technically, this wouldn't happen in real because you wouldn't be able to merge the two when they're two separate models in real life. But for the sake of adding a bit more stability to the model, we are just going to push these in a little bit further, somewhere around there. So technically, you could print Sarge like that, while he's just freehanding it. Look at that, we're all done. Thank you for joining, and we hope you subscribe, and have a good day. Now, we want to give it actual posing now, don't we? Now, there's a few things to keep in mind. We notice Sarge is actually looking down into his binoculars. His chin is going down, so we're going to need to move the head into place. Obviously, his arms are coming in. We need to get the right width. They're not completely pushed in. They've got some spread to them, and then the hands sort of come across. But I want to start, let's get the head height right, and then we can figure out everything else from there. So from the looks of it, the tip of his hat kind of is coming in line with the binoculars. So with our model selected, we are going to make sure we have our armature on. So we want to be able to see our bones on here. So if you hit A on all your bones, go over to the data section, and we are going to go over to viewport display under here and click in front. Now we can see all the bones through Sarge. None of them are hidden, which makes it a lot easier. So now that we can see all the bones, we need to find the one that controls his head, because we just need to bring his head down so he's looking forward a little bit. So we can see this backbone here. This is controlling his head pivot. So let's just bring it down, I'd say about there. So that's good. I am then going to make a little minor adjustment, and we want to bring our model, the binoculars, down so that it's all lining up. So I'm just going to hide our armature again, and I'm going to bring this down, and we also want to bring this out a little bit. So now we want to be able to pose his arms into position. That is our next port of call. So if we hit our bone structure again and we go to pose mode, we can actually pose either side at the same time. I'd say Sarge's arms are fairly uniform. We'll make some minor adjustments just to add a little bit of natural variety, you'd say. But to pose these both at the same time, you can select the bones and you can make sure that this X above here, and you can see this mirroring effect. What this does is this allows you to work on the same section. So if he's got two arms, you can pose this exact same point at the shoulders, and it makes it so much quicker and easier. So we're going to just quickly pose Sarge in the correct position. So it's really important at this point that you keep an eye on how his arms are going. So we are keeping things fairly uniform at the moment, but at a certain point we're going to have to stop the mirroring and start doing things individually by arm. Sort of notice it's a bit low res, but his left hand arm is lower on this part of the binocular, and his right hand arm is slightly higher and slightly going over, at least by my eye anyway. I want to now start working on each arm separately. So we're going to bring this arm first, which I'd say it's at the right height, but we need to pull it in a little bit tighter to his body. So we're going to do that right now, working on each individual point as we go. Okay, so that's the first part of the arm done. Now, before I move on to the second arm, I do just want to work on the fingers and hands. Now, it is a little bit awkward to see everything here, but what we're going to start with is I want to select these 4 bones, which are on his knuckles, and we're going to just bring these down. So we're using a mixture of the rotation tools and the positioning tool just to bring these in at the right point. Now we're working on, I guess, his upper knuckles, if that's the right word. I'm not very good with my hand anatomy.
Hey, these guys are professionals. They're the best.
What you'll notice is if you just stretch his fingers around like that, they start to pull away and look a bit elongated. So this is where you're using a little bit of a mixture of the two to get these in the right position. So I've got those, and now we're going to work on the fingertips. So if we just turn this off a minute, we can see we've got a very basic structure with his hand on there. Needs a little bit of tidy up, but it's a good starting point. One thing I'd like to do is move his hand. We can see it's snapped between the helmet, and when we look at our reference image, I would say it's coming up more to the edge here. So this is where we just need to tidy that up a little bit. Right, now I'd say that looks a lot better. Fingers are just in front of the helmet. The thumb is almost in the right place, but what we want to do is bring the binoculars forward a little bit. So that's what we're going to do now. So we'll grab our Binocs and just bring them forward. Make sure we are in the correct mode. So they are now about there. So this is where there's a lot of back and forth, just figuring out all the different elements. Now, I do just want to make a slight adjustment to the fingers. I just want to rotate them, at least these edge fingers, in the right direction. So we're going to come back into pose mode on here. Now we're going to make that adjustment. Right, so already that's looking a lot better now. So I'm very happy with that. So we can now move on to doing his right hand, and his right arm, I should say. So same principles as before. We're going to go in and repose these. Oh, before I forget, I completely forgot to sort out his thumb. So let's do that now. Now here's a good question for any of you who know Blender. If you know a way where you can turn off individual bones but quickly turn them all back on again, please do let me know, because it drives me up the wall in these sections when you're trying to pose a multi-boned structure and there's just this whole mess of bones. It's not easy. So if you know a way, let me know in the comments below. So now lastly, we're just going to do the thumb. Now, I can't really see where his thumb's going, but from the looks of it, his palm looks quite flat. So I would say that Sarge maybe has his thumb a bit higher up, a bit in like so. Okay, so I'm fairly happy with that. We can go in more detail, but I think at this point, this is a really good starting point for our Sarge model. So the next thing we need to pose now is his legs. So from what I notice, his right leg seems straighter here with a slight forward, maybe pivoting out slightly on this side, but then this leg here pivots out further and has a slight more bend to the knee. So we're going to do same sort of thing when we go into poses. We are going to make sure we have our model posing sorted here. What we want to do, we want to make sure that we don't wreck the model like this, but just position his legs out in the correct orientation. So I'm thinking if we at least get it where his front left, or yeah, it's front left leg, so this one that we're working on here, is in the correct orientation, and then we'll individually do the right hand one. Okay, so I think that's pretty good on the right hand leg. Now we just need to push this leg a little bit further out so that it comes closer onto this side like we see on our reference images. Okay, so I'd say we have him pretty good now. He's at a decent point where we can move forward, just do a quick orbit around, but I'm fairly happy with how he is looking.
Mission accomplished. Well done, man.
Okay, so the next thing we want to do now is we're going to do a bit of cleaning up on our mesh. You can technically do this ahead of time. I preferably like to do it just after, just in case any of the changes in the cleanup messes with the armature. So in object mode, we're going to switch over to edit mode. Don't worry if the pose switches back. That always happens when you go into object mode. It's just switching between the T-pose.
So did I tell you? Huh? Nothing to worry about.
Make sure everything's selected and hit M, which gives us the merge option, and then by distance. You'll see we've lost a lot of vertices there. So now that we've cleaned up the overall mesh, we want to get rid of these horrible little artifacts that have popped up. They have been actually cleaned up quite a bit by just doing the merge. So that's cleaned up our mesh quite nicely actually, but I just want to give it that extra bit of smoothing. So we're in the modified tool using the subdivision surface. So the computer's just going to render that through, and already you can see what it's doing to our mesh, giving it a nice cleanup. So there is some weird rippling along there. So be careful you don't push this up too far, because this will add more stress on your render engine. A lot of these bumpy details you will not see in the final model because it's so tiny, so you don't need to worry too much, but I would say around 2 or 3 would be best. Let's just have a look at that. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. We can go off and on so you can see what's happening. We obviously want to remove not only this top bit, but we want to sort out the seam lines on the model as well. So to do this, what we first off want to do is we want to lock in the armature. Now, if you don't want to lose all the work, what I'd recommend doing is going File, Save As, and create a template copy. So you can go in and you can change the mesh however you want. Because right now we're going to lock some things in so that we can separate stuff on the mesh. So I'm going to go to Convert to Mesh, and now that's locked in our armature. So the armature will no longer be affecting our model. You can see this when we go into edit mode. It's now locked in on the pose. And what we also want to do is hit P, which is the separate tool, and go by loose parts. Now this might take up a little bit of our render, but now that it's done it, you can actually see the separated meshes all along here. There's a few. And what we're going to do is we're going to group each section. And there's some things we can do as well for the printing process, which can make life a lot easier. So we'll show that in a second. First of all, we want to get rid of the parachute troopers attachment, which very nice and easily is just a click away.
Turn that thing back on!
So our seam lines, which are all over Sarge, we actually want to add some thickness. If you want to go without the seam lines, you can go in and you can delete them. But if you like that movie accuracy and you want to add that extra bit to it, we are actually going to go in and we're going to thicken them out. So before I start going ahead, click on each individual seam line like so, right click and make sure you hit set origin and then put the origin to geometry. This is now centering our origin point when you hit edit mode, but we can use the extrude tool here. So if you hit E, and we can add some thickness to Sarge's seam line. So we come out there now and we actually have a little bit of thickness. Now you might be looking really close up and go, it's not that thick, but as soon as you start printing and as soon as you start to see the scale, that thickness will actually show up. It won't look as ridiculously thick as it may do in person, but it will certainly give it hopefully the correct amount of thickness. So we're just going to go in and rinse and repeat on all these sections here.
Recon plan Charlie, execute.
So there you have it. Now we have got our fully modelled Sarge in his pose with seam lines included. Again, if you don't like the seam lines and you want to go more clean, then that's absolutely fine, it's up to you. But if you're someone who wants that movie accuracy and you want those seam lines, then obviously this will add to that look. So we are nearly done. The last thing that we need to sort out is these rings here. So from what I understand, obviously when injection molding takes place, there is a point where there's a hole and the plastic is injected into there, and I believe that's why Sarge has these two holes or these like rings here. Again, if we just try and print as is, we will either have the 3D model program try and fill this in as a solid hole, or it will cut it out completely. So we just want to add a little bit of thickness to it. So again, if we go into edit mode, hit A, then extrude and press S to scale and just give it that little bit more thickness. Now, we want to first of all combine everything back into one mesh. So by selecting everything, right click on the model and hit join, or you can go Control J. Next thing to do will be obviously to export it ready for our slicing program. So we can go File, hit Export, go over to STL, choose the place where you want to put it. For now, we're just going to put it in our downloads. I'm going to call it Sarge Binocs Stood Up. Hit Export STL, and that's sorted. Now we hope you've enjoyed this episode, and as a bonus for our Prototype Pal supporters on Patreon, we are giving away a few of the 3D models that we've already generated free for those users. Next week, we're going to show you through how we set up our 3D models for printing in a resin 3D printer, and then we'll also show the sanding and painting process to get your Green Army Man to his final stages.